Have you been ever asked to find the main idea of a text or an article? Sometimes it can be hard to know where to get started. But today we're going to talk about a strategy that's going to help you be able to figure out how to determine the main idea of even some of the most complex texts. To get an idea of how to find the main idea of an article, we are going to use a strategy today called Sketch in Chunks. Not necessarily the most elegant name, but it's going to help us determine what's most important. So I have this article, The Battle for Coral Reefs, that I need to read and determine the main idea for. I'm going to use this strategy of sketching in chunks to help me do that. There are 3 main steps to this strategy. They are to first divide the article into chunks, stop and sketch what you picture for each section or the text that you divided, and review all of the sketches and determine the main idea of the whole text altogether. So I'm going to want to make sure that I come up with what the most important parts are of each of those small sections in my sketches so that when I review them, I have an idea of what the whole story is about. So let's practice and take a look at this text together, The Battle for Coral Reefs. So when you're taking a look at your text, you can chunk as you go, do it paragraph by paragraph, or look and see how big or long your text is altogether. This isn't too long, so I'm just going to stop after each couple of paragraphs and do the strategy. So the first thing I'm going to do is read aloud the first 2 paragraphs and then think to myself, what do I picture from this information? So this says, half of the world's coral reefs have died in the last 30 years. The fight to save the remaining reefs just got more complicated. New research shows that even if people succeed in protecting reefs from pollution and overfishing, global warming remains a deadly threat. The research published their study in the journal Nature. They looked at data from recent bleaching events in the Great Barrier Reef. It is off the coast of Australia. Warm water temperatures, pollution, and overfishing can lead to coral bleach and die. So I'm going to stop there. I'm going to draw a line to know that that's where I have divided my text. And now I am going to think about how I might sketch that information. So I can think about coral reef. And the good news about this strategy, sketching in chunks, is it really doesn't matter how good of a drawer I am or if anybody else knows what my picture is as long as I do. So this is my coral reef. It looks real fancy, right? And now I'm going to take a red pen and I'm just going to make a big X to show that some of it is dying. I know that what that means to me. And I'm also then going to, I saw some things about global warming, or I read some things about that. So I'm going to draw a sun with maybe some hot red rays coming out of it to show that the coral reef is dying. And honestly, that's all I have to do. Sometimes it might be helpful if we jot down a few words or record our voice explaining what our picture is showing us so that we can remember, or that if somebody else is looking at our picture, that it might make sense to them. But honestly, all we need to do is draw our picture, section off, and then continue reading. So I would do this process and continue to read the rest of the sections. So I read through the rest of the article and I continued to sketch and draw some of the things that I thought were most important. It talked about the coral reefs being home to many fish and animals and plants and things that might be important. And then it also talked about knowing that it was global warming that was killing the coral reefs. They mentioned other things that they tried to explore, but those weren't as important. And then the article ended by saying we could help. There were still things we could do to end global warming and protect the coral reefs. So the next important piece that I need to do is to determine a main idea statement. When I review all of these pictures together, what do I think or know that this story is mostly about? And when I do that for this particular text, review those images, what I think of is this idea that coral reefs, which are important to the ocean habitat, are in danger of becoming extinct due to global warming, but we can still help. That hits on all of these pictures. They are in danger because of global warming. They are important to the ocean, and we can help. By thinking of all of those pictures together, I was able to come up with a sentence that really describes the main idea of this article and what the author wanted to say about the topic of coral reefs.